Okay, people. I'm going to read something to you. Right, this is the social service assessment of ShaMay. On the first day, they took her body to the hospital. Now, there is misinformation in these files. Whether you want to call it falsified files or files that have misinformation in them remains to be seen. But anyway, referred by nursing, admitting diagnosed cardiac arrest, relevant health history, depression, right? Social context, patient address, and then my phone number. And then family is listing me as mother. And then they got Julian listed down with his phone number on there. And they got him listed down as a common law husband. I've mentioned this before, people, because he went in there, he was telling the cops that, people. And I'm like, no, he's not common law, he doesn't live here. So anyway, because I didn't go to the hospital, because I had Amari and Andre, right? And I had to kind of figure out what the fuck was going on. And I had to prepare for the next day, right? Because, again, Julian used to threaten me all the time, people. So I went into panic mode, right? And so anyway, Tisha wanted to go, so I let Tisha go. And because she wasn't allowed to go in the ambulance, she had to take a taxi. And of course, Julian wanted to go, so her and Tisha went together. But because he called the common law husband card, this is what they did. Right? And they shouldn't have done this. Not only did they list him down wrong, right? They didn't get no verification that he was common law. No, didn't hear it from me, right? Family system, ShaMay and her common law husband, Julian, have a 7-month-old son, Amari. She has 2 sisters, Sierra 30 and Tisha 20, and 2 brothers, Brooks 33 and Marcane 26, and previous notes indicate a positive relationship with her mother, Judy. So I guess they're looking in her medical files to formulate that opinion. Point is, though, Julian was not a common law husband. So this needs to be removed out of her files. But the thing is, you can't remove it. Once it's in the files, you cannot remove it. The only thing that you can do is, I guess, you photocopy this particular piece of paper and any other accompanying paper to this particular subject right here with the, social worker assessment. And then you type out where you think they made a mistake. And then you submit that to the Freedom of Information Privacy Commission office. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So that keeps you busy, right? Once you decide to take on that task. Living arrangement. ShaMay lives with her common law husband, Julian. That is a flat out lie. It's a falsified record, people. It's misinformation. And their son, Amari, 7 months, live in the basement suite of a rental home in Surrey. Her mother, Judy, and sister, Tisha, live in the upstairs unit. Tisha doesn't live upstairs. Well, she lives in the house, but her room is downstairs next to ShaMay, who is next to Marcane. Julian hadn't been living here, people, trust me, for a long time. Legal information. Now we're going into page 2. Police RCMP attended the scene and are following in community. Surrey RCMP file number 18-49600. ShaMay's goal of care at this time are for full medical treatment and intervention, CPR/C2. Her common law husband, there it is again, Julian, is her temporary, listen to this one, people, is her temporary substitute decision maker. Simply because they asked him who he was, he barked out, "Oh, I'm the common law husband. I live with ShaMay," which was a lie. They did nothing to verify that. They just took it for face value, wrote it down into their file, and then appointed him the temporary substitute decision maker, which falls under, what act does it fall under? Farmer Care something Consent Act. I have it. Because that's what they did with Uncle John. They appointed Eleanor as his substitute temporary whatever, right, what you just heard, illegally, because she had no history with John, and it wasn't a request from him, and he wasn't in a state where he needed it done. But if they were going to do anything and they got caught, that's what they would have done. They would have said, "Oh, well, he requested it," but it would have had to been in writing. I have videos on that, people. So now, okay, this is new news to me, okay? I didn't know that they did that, so I'm keeping this one out because, I have to follow up on it, right, people? Anyway, as per the Healthcare Consent and Care Facility Admission Act. However, this has not been confirmed with him at this time. So the hospital staff just assigned it to him, but hadn't confirmed it with him without them even talking to me. But they talked enough with Tisha to get number of kids of mine and their ages, but they didn't ask her if ShaMay was living with him, obviously. And if they did, they ignored her answer because they wrote it down as he was common law. And then they appointed him the temporary substitute decision maker, which I'm sure was illegal. One doctor called me on the phone. That's the one that asked me that if, something happened, should she be resuscitated? And I didn't know what the hell was going on. It was too soon to say no, right? So I said yes. And I don't know if the subject of that came up, but if it did, it was Tisha who was supposed to sign anything because I wasn't there, right? So if they were appointing him as temporary substitute decision maker, why were they calling me? Communication mental status. ShaMay is intubated. I don't know what that means. I'm going to have to look it up. Without sedation. And showing no neurological responses. Well, that's because she was dead, people. Only nobody said anything about it. Bio-psycho-emotional context. Purpose of social work involvement. To assess psychosocial dynamics and provide support as appropriate. Current situation. Miss ShaMay Chorney is a 22-year-old woman who was brought to SMH Emergency Department ED Trauma Bay by ambulance EHS. Okay, listen to this. After being found in cardiac arrest by her, and they write it down again, common law husband Julian. I have to correct this, people. The court is going to have to help me to correct this in one sweep. As per Julian, he woke up at approximately 9:30 a.m. and found her face down and unresponsive on the couch. She was sitting up. He said he noticed pee under her, so he moved her and he laid her down. So I'm assuming face down is like this while she was sitting up. Okay. When I ran past my stove, people, it was 10 o'clock. Okay. Right? Tisha said by the time she left her room, got to ShaMay, realized what was going on, and told Julian to go get me, it was no more than a minute. So we'll put it at best a minute and a half, no more than 2 minutes. So by 9:58, okay, that's when he went to Tisha's room. He didn't run, he didn't holler, he didn't scream, he didn't cry, nothing. He just walked down the hall, basically, went to Tisha's door, looked inside and said, ShaMay's not responding. ShaMay's not responding. Then he moved out of the way, he let Tisha run past him, so she ran off down the hall, and then he just kind of stood there and watched as everything unfolded. And then he came up and he got me. And then when I came down, he seen my reaction, right? And just basically stood there and watched, people, until the ambulance operator on the other end, like emergency 911 operator, said that she needed to be taken off the futon and put on the floor. And then that's when Julian picked her up and put her on the floor. The point is, if he's saying he got up at 9:30, approximately 9:30, what was he doing for 30 minutes with her body? Think about it, people. Right? She died. She was dying at 8:55 with the death rattle. That is documented. Okay? By 9:10, the latest, her body was moved. Okay? It was witnessed by Tisha. ShaMay was no longer sitting up. He left her there for 50 minutes, but he came out at approximately 9:30 and he cleaned her up. Okay? Her last Snapchat, she had a black tank top on. When we got to her, it was white. So within that 30-minute, even 20-minute period, he changed her tank top. Because by the time I got to her, people, the bubbles in her lungs or wherever they were coming from, who knows, are coming out like profusely, right? Another 5 minutes more, they would have been coming down her chin. So if it was like that when I got to her at 10, you know it was doing that before I got to her, people. So, right there, he shot himself in the foot. He fucked up on his timeline, people. We have texts of him, right, asking what time Tisha got home, so he could map it out in his head. He woke up at approximately 9:30 a.m. and found her face down and unresponsive on the couch. She was last seen well at 7:30 a.m. By who? Julian? She was talking to Tisha, but they went on till 8. The Snapchat didn't come in until after 8 when she was in the living room because Paige seen it. That was the first thing Paige seen when she woke up to get ready to go to work. It was around 8 o'clock. It was after 8. As per ShaMay's sister Tisha, their older sister Sierra struggles with substance abuse. So Tisha mentioned that Sierra struggles with substance abuse because I guess the subject of drugs came up. And she was adamant that ShaMay does not use drugs having growing up watching Sierra struggle. ShaMay was too smart to be a drug addict, people. Right? She served 1,000 homeless people, with the majority of them drug addicts that would smear shit in the bathroom in McDonald's when they weren't injecting and having sex in there, as my 17-year-old is working there for over a year and a half. Okay? Every fucking day. Huh? As if. Drugs didn't show up into the house until Julian showed up. ShaMay's toxicology screen came back positive for cocaine and opiates. As per. This is important, people. Listen to this one. As per EHS. Okay? This is the ambulance service. All right? No opiates were given by them. And she was not given opiates in the emergency department prior to her toxicology screen. ShaMay's toxicology screen came back positive for cocaine and opiates. As per. What does that mean? As per the ambulance. Okay? They Narcaned her 4 times. Currently, right now, in BC, every day, people, every day, 3 people die from fentanyl overdose, as the coroner continues to rubber stamp each and every death as either suicide or accident. Okay? Keep this in mind. 3 a day. All right? People are going on about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is nothing compared to what's happening with the Holocaust around fentanyl and the illegal organ harvesting and money laundering that's being facilitated through the deaths of thousands, as the coroner completely ignores it. In terms of, no, suicide, stamp. Oh, okay, sorry. We'll just put it to accident. No opiates were given by them, and she was not given opiates in emergency department prior to her toxicology screen. Julian and Tisha attended hospital shortly after ShaMay arrived and were provided with a medical update by attending intensive care ICU physician Dr. Barr. Okay. I was told nothing about fentanyl, only that she had cocaine in her system. When Tisha got home, same thing for Tisha. She was only told that she had the so-called cocaine in her system. We didn't find out about the fentanyl until the next day, and it didn't even come from hospital staff. It came from somebody else that works in that place that just happened to mosey in, check up on ShaMay, because she knew ShaMay, and took a boo, and then that's how we found out that ShaMay apparently had a high dose of fentanyl in her system. And then when I showed up in court, after court, that next day, the 12th, at 4 o'clock, that's when they dropped the big bombshell on me. Oh, did you know? Oh, yeah, she had fentanyl in her system. It's confirmed. We got back the test. And I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, I already found that out at fucking 8 o'clock this morning. Somebody phoned me to tell me. You know, you're not giving me no new news. Right? But why didn't they tell me when she was first admitted? They could tell she had cocaine in her system. But what? They couldn't tell that she had fentanyl in her system? It took 24 hours to get those results in? Or is it being written here that it was the emergency guys downstairs that determined that she had cocaine and fentanyl in her system? Because they did Narcan her 4 times, but it wasn't the Narcan that supposedly, quote unquote, take it with a grain of salt, that started her heart. Because her heart was never started, people. If they would have started her heart, then they would have damaged the organs. Think about it. Okay? If they didn't care about the organs, they would have called in the coroner's office. And the coroner would have put ShaMay's body on lockdown, and it would have went for a forensic autopsy because she died under suspicious circumstances. And these people ignored it. As they're falsifying ShaMay's records by saying Julian was a common law husband without verifying that with anybody in this house. Didn't verify it with my son, didn't verify it with my daughter, didn't verify it with me, didn't verify it with Andre, didn't verify it with nobody. Nobody. They just took it for face fucking value, right? Because they had an agenda, people. As per Dr. Barr, ShaMay is at significant risk for anoxic brain injury, and her CT is already showing brain edema and will be admitted to ICU for ongoing monitoring and treatment. However, her prognosis remains quite guarded. Well, yeah, because they knew. They knew people. They were playing Frankenstein. This is witchcraft. Do you know that in the Criminal Code of Canada, there is a section in there where you're not supposed to be practicing sorcery and witchcraft? I'm almost wanting to add it in to this lawsuit because what these people are doing is not sane, okay? There's nothing sane about it. Tisha connected with their mother, Judy, after meeting with Dr. Barr. Tisha got to meet him. I never did, people. However, she is currently caring for ShaMay's son, Amari. As per Tisha, Judy will attend ICU later today to meet with the team. When I first showed up, basically, I talked to... Let me get this straight. It wasn't just nurses, because I came in at 9. I didn't really stay long. Right? And that's when I asked, what are all those poke marks? Why does she look embalmed? What is this shit leaking down her neck? Right? Why is she so swollen? Why is she so hard? Right? Tell me how she got a super bug. Right? It came in from the environment. So what are you telling me? I have a super bug in my environment and I just don't know about it? Oh no, it's common for people to have it on their skin. Don't worry about it. Just wear the gown and the gloves. Don't worry, don't worry. We're looking after ShaMay. She's really, really sick, but we treat her like she's our sister. And then the next day, that's when we met with the social worker, me and Marcane. So the first night was talking to a nurse. Second day, after I got done with court, that's when we met the first social worker. And then the third day, it went into Jordy, right, that gay social worker, who went against what I asked for them to do, but so did the other social worker. So either or, I'm looking to see if they even wrote it down where I specifically requested to not have Julian and his friends and family going into ShaMay's room at this time because I wanted an investigation as to why she was in the state that she was in. As they're telling me that I need to contact the police and get the police to do it. And I'm saying, well, why can't you? Why can't the doctor request an investigation? Obviously, there's something suspicious going on around here. As they're saying, oh, well, you know, maybe she was just a closet addict and you just didn't know about it, right? You know, she kind of deserved what she got, right? Everybody knows not to do drugs in BC because if you do, there's like, you know, what is the percentage of 3 people a day, every day, year after year, dying of fentanyl in this province due to drugs are connected to fentanyl. Meth is connected to fentanyl. Heroin is connected to fentanyl. Crack cocaine is connected to fentanyl. Fucking cocaine is connected to fucking fentanyl. Ecstasy is connected to fentanyl. MDS or MDD or whatever that stuff is called. It's all got fentanyl in it now, people. As these people are falsifying records, criminalizing the true victims in this Holocaust. Patient family perspective. Tisha and Julian expressed significant shock and distress at ShaMay's presentation to emergency department and guarded prognosis. Julian, in particular, struggled to remain in the room with ShaMay while Dr. Barr was providing an update and expressed feeling that he should have brought ShaMay to the doctor earlier when she said she wasn't feeling well. So, everybody knows it's related to drugs. They're experienced. We live in Surrey. The next highest number of people dying in British Columbia, Canada, would be equal to the East Hastings, Vancouver East Side, right? In the East Hastings, the notorious East Hastings area. Surrey is next in line when it comes to the number of people that are dying from fentanyl out of those 3 a day, every day. Okay, so split it down the middle. If there's like over 1,500 people dying, so within my geographical region, 750 people die every year from fentanyl, not including the other 750 that die downtown and that way in that geographical area. And that's what's being reported, people. And they're all being reported as suicide or accident. So he was acting like a drama king. He had to put on a show, right? Just like he did when the cops showed up downstairs and the paramedics. That's when he started, ooh. And I have a right to fucking talk about this shit because I got ShaMay's fucking medical records. Okay? I was there. I have to get these things corrected. Therapeutic intervention using a crisis-informed approach. Attended trauma bay to assess psychosocial dynamics. Facilitated medical update with Dr. Barr. Provided emotional support to ShaMay's family. Brought family to ICU to provide psychosocial handover to ICU social worker for continuing of care. So this was the intake social worker who did this. This wasn't the social worker that I met the next day upstairs. Clinical impression and social work diagnoses. ShaMay's family presents an understandably shocked and distressed at her sudden health crisis. Given her young age, the currently unknown cause of her cardiac arrest, well, did they not just say they knew? Did they not just say it up here with the with the ambulance service per them going in, right, with no sedation, right? Given the young age, the currently unknown cause of her cardiac arrest, even though it states further up in that paragraph, ShaMay toxicology screen came back positive for cocaine and opiates. That's the current situation. Clinical impression. Yeah, I don't know. It's just bouncing in there, don't you? Right? Given, okay, we read that. And her guarded prognosis, the family will likely benefit from ongoing social work support and involvement during ShaMay's ICU admission. Well, I would think that they would have a social worker in the ICU in general. I don't think that you would have to qualify for that service, people. If you've got a loved one in ICU, why the fuck would you need a referral to have a social worker help your family work through that process? You know? Like, anyway, plan ICU social worker to please facilitate family meeting with ICU team. Never met with no team, people. And what little team that I did meet was Dr. Gould with his two Lucies sitting in the room showing me random pictures of a brain through a scan that was supposedly supposed to make me feel better with the fact that my daughter was clinically dead. And he had the proof to show me that. And that it was time to shut off the machines, as if we even begged to put her on there. We never fucking asked to put her on there. They put her on there. And it was all a charade anyway. Provide ongoing emotional resource and systems, navigate support as needed. It's just a bunch of hypocrisy and bullshit words. Think about it. 2 years later, I'm having to fucking read this shit and relive the nightmare over and over and over again as I get new fucking nuggets on Julian. Outcome. Assessment completed and initial support provided. And that's the emergency social worker. And that was written on April 11th. Time would be 11:09. So what? 11:09. Was that in the morning or the afternoon? I don't know how that works. So this one here, I have to get it corrected. Wherever they've got him listed as a common law husband, it needs to be corrected, people. It needs to be fucking addressed. Right? And it's like that throughout a lot of these papers. That's why Julian was saying, because he thought he'd get the baby just by saying, oh, common law. He thought if he could drop the word common law, that would be it. He could get the baby. But you see, now, right, just putting on these little things, I'm keeping this one out. I don't know how many I'm going to have to keep out, because there's a few of them in here already piling up. Right? It's enough that we're looking at these falsified fucking numbers that mean nothing on a ventilator machine. But I have to go in there and do this stuff. Right? Like, what's this one? I'm not going to read it now because it's too much. Relationship, father of baby. When was this written? April 11th. This one was by the social worker. April 11th. Did Marcane and I meet Allie? This is Allie. Did we meet her at 9 o'clock at night? I'm pretty damn sure I was talking to the nurse, because I was asking her all kinds of questions and she was getting kind of annoyed with me. Because I was, they tried to say that the cocaine offset the fentanyl, and they couldn't fucking say that it was the fentanyl that killed her because she had the cocaine in her system. And, go out in the streets and talk to anybody out here, right? Like, if you don't have a tolerance for fentanyl, that's it. You're toast as soon as you come into contact. And even some of these hardcore addicts will go into immediate freaking lockdown with an overdose, right? If the fentanyl is too strong. They're always running around with Narcan kits out here, people. They Narcan people right out in the streets. So this one apparently was written on the 11th. Because on the 13th, that's when Jordy got on the scene. I'm pretty sure I met the social worker on the 12th. It was after court. That's when we met Allie. So this should not be dated for the 11th. It should not. But I'll have to confirm that. And they've got the time here at 17:39. So I guess I'll have to get into military time here. So what is this? Purpose of social work involvement: to provide supportive counseling to family in light of ICU admission, to continue psychosocial assessment and establish temporary decision maker, right? To notify MCFD of patient's admission in light of positive urine for tox screen. But you see, they had already called social services on me, Julian and his family. Because when I went back to court with them there, MCFD was there, right? But they didn't want to get involved, people, because they already went through that with Andre. Right? This, to notify MCFD, this was not, they didn't show up to court because of this, people. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have, because, you know, Amari technically didn't have his mother, right? But they didn't show up for that reason. They showed up with the that, you know, I was a bad grandmother. Anyway, current situation. ShaMay Chorney is a 22-year-old female who is admitted to SMH ICU from emergency room post-cardiac arrest. Patient's toxicology screen has come back positive for cocaine and fentanyl. Okay, this is dated for April 11th, 17:39 hours. I don't know what that is in terms of, it'd be like 11 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night or something, right? They didn't tell us that ShaMay had fentanyl in her system the first day. I found that out through somebody else, people, as I was going to court on my way after I dropped off Amari. They didn't tell us about that till the next day, but it looks like here they already knew. So why wouldn't they tell me? If they could tell me about the cocaine, why couldn't they tell me about the fentanyl? But you see, it was Allie who told us about the fentanyl, and that was after court, which was on the 12th. Okay? So she's got this dated wrong. So that's another thing I have to correct. So what? Am I supposed to photocopy all these papers just to correct one mistake in terms of the date? Assuming that everything in here is written correctly? Tisha shares that on the morning of patient's admission, she herself had been out overnight and returned home at 7 a.m. ShaMay had been singing to baby Amari in Tisha's room, I already told you that, and told Tisha that she was feeling unwell and went to lay down on the couch. Family share patient had been feeling unwell for a couple of days, and that's true. right? Monday and Tuesday. Saturday and Sunday, she went to the African get-together, right, with long-time family friends. And then the other day, she went to a baby shower. And I even think she stopped off at Julian's mother's house because there's pictures of that. I'm pretty sure. And then by Monday, she was upstairs all day. She wasn't feeling very well. But, all day, all night, she was up until about 1:30 in the morning, and she did all her paperwork for school. I already said that. Somewhere in here, it's written down that she was on welfare, which is not true, people. She was being cut off of welfare because her student loan had been approved, and she had to contact social services, which she did on that Monday, to ask for them to review her file before they completely closed it, because she was getting a student loan and it was kicking her off of welfare with a baby, okay? And I told her, ShaMay, don't panic. We got food in the house, right? As long as Mrs. Gill gets her $500 in rent, you're good to go. You go to school, right? Will register me for childcare while you go to school, and I'll watch Mari for you. Lots of food in the house. If welfare cuts you off, we'll get through it. But before they cut you off, right, before you accept that, you need to get them to review your application, like your file. That's what she was doing Monday, people, through computer, okay? I can prove that, right? And then Tuesday, she had to go out and she had to fax stuff, right? Or drop off at the welfare office, papers, or whatever it was, right? She was going to go get her passport signed, right? She was doing stuff a little bit with school. She got her passport picture. The people who were supposed to sign it, one wasn't working for whatever reason, didn't make it that day. So she decided that on Wednesday, the next day, she was going to meet up with both people, right? Can verify that, people, right? I can verify that. They're witness to that because they agreed to sign the passport because she wanted to go visit her dad with the baby. But the thing is, Julian wasn't signing the federal papers to put her name on the birth certificate. He was avoiding that, right? So, because it would have, she would have had to get a letter in writing to say it was okay for the baby to cross over the border because it was just the baby's name on the birth certificate, right? So if Julian wasn't going to sign that federal paper, her only other alternative was to take him to court, which she was already starting to think to do, right? But she never got a chance because the next day, on Wednesday morning, she was dead. Patient struggles with insomnia. Thus, when she appeared to be sleeping, family left her to sleep undisturbed. Again, if you're in the living room, sitting on the couch, right, and you kind of like nod off, you're snoring, and one of your family members walk by, they go into the kitchen, hang out in there for 5-10 minutes. I mean, is it really necessary? Hey, go lay down, when you already were going to go lay down where you were, right? You know what I mean? People don't stop to think that, you're going to come back an hour later and that person's going to be dead. Okay, nobody would have thought of this, people. A couple of hours later, it wasn't a couple of hours later, people. It was an hour. Tisha witnessed ShaMay at 8:55 with the death rattle. As Julian stood over ShaMay, looking at Tisha, startled, asking her, "What are you doing there?" And then he ran off back down to the bedroom and hid out there until about, based on this other information here, at about 9:30, that's when he came out, found ShaMay like that, moved her body, and then by 10, everything broke out. A couple of hours later, Julian observed that patient did not seem to be breathing, and 911 was called. That's not true. Julian did not call 911. Julian called out, "ShaMay, ShaMay," and then walked down the hall, basically, or scuffled, and got to Tisha's door and said, "ShaMay's not responding. ShaMay's not responding," and then stood back, let Tisha run past him. Then he followed Tisha to see how everything would unfold. And it was Tisha who called 911 as she was telling him to go get me. Because I guess he was going for water or something. As per, okay, 911 was called. No, Julian did not call 911. Per Judy, by phone, patient lives with her sister Tisha. I don't remember if the social worker called me or not. And a brother in the downstairs suite of the home. Their mother, Judy, lives upstairs in the home. ShaMay is on income assistance. ShaMay was being cut off of income assistance, people, because her student loan went through. ShaMay asked for them to review her file on Monday, a day and a half before she died. She submitted her application for that, or letters, or whatever, and they actually sent her a response, but I didn't get to see the response because she died and they closed her file. So the only way I can see the response to see whether they approved it or not is to ask them through the Freedom of Information to get that file. And then I'll know whether they approved it or whether they denied her. It wouldn't have mattered. She could have still went to school. And within 9 months, she would have been done and working full time. And was due to start school on April 23rd for a nursing program. Judy shares that ShaMay had plans to do well in her life and to attend school and raise her baby. She was under a lot of stress recently as she had received information that her income assistance was going to be reduced or cut off. Okay, well, gotta give this social worker some credit. She was quite stressed out about this. Well, who wouldn't be, right? But the rent was covered and we had the food. Daycare was covered. And it was just a matter of doing it, which she was going to do. Patient's mother shared with social worker by phone. So I must have talked to her by phone. I don't remember. That ShaMay and Julian are not living common law. And that they had only just recently started spending time together again. Which is true. Because Julian started coming around, one, because his mother's house got robbed and he needed some place to hide out. And two, the new thing that came out of his mouth was a co-parenting. He wanted to co-parent. That's where two people aren't together, but they share the responsibility of raising a child. Right? And because ShaMay wanted to be fair, she was open to the idea. However, she needed him to sign those federal forms to put her name on the birth certificate so that when she was ready to go see her dad, it wasn't going to be too complicated to take the baby across the border because her name was on the birth certificate. And of course, Julian didn't want that to happen, so he refused to sign the papers, which kind of put ShaMay in a position where she was starting to think that she was going to have to take him to court. Right? And that's what some of those videos that she had was to sock it to him in terms of like, you know, come on, Your Honor, you know, look at, there he is counting his drug money, right? Or look, there he's doing cocaine because, you know, I don't want to be with him. He's not doing what he's supposed to do, right? He's a lousy fucking father and he won't sign these papers and like, it's kind of like a scoundrel, you know, And I'm like, calm down, ShaMay. Calm down. But she made the mistake of letting him back in, people. I told her not to, and she didn't listen. ShaMay was making an effort to involve him in their child's life. Right? Grandmother wants to see the baby. 2 weeks later, ShaMay is dead. Okay? She made an effort to go see that woman. And then she asked Julian to take her back. His mother wanted to see the baby again. And he didn't want to do it. And ShaMay felt uncomfortable. But anyway, none of it matters now, right? I guess. Baby Amari is being cared for in the patient's home by the mother, Judy Chorney. MCFD is aware. Judy plans to visit patient at bedside tonight, once Tisha has returned home to care for Amari. Okay, so that's a phone call that I had with this woman. I don't remember the phone call, people. Temporary decision maker is discussed, and patient's mother, Judy, will fulfill this role. Patient's sister, Tisha, and Julian support this as well. A medical update is facilitated for Judy. Temporary decision maker by phone with Tisha present. Judy was not in emergency room when Tisha and Julian were updated, as she is at home caring for Amari. Dr. Barr shared that patient is admitted to SMH ICU post-cardiac arrest, and there is concern for anorexic brain injury. He explained that patient's toxicology screen was positive for cocaine. Positive fentanyl results were not yet resulted. I don't know why that would be, and that this may have played a part in patient's cardiac arrest. So, positive fentanyl results were not yet resulted. So they could tell that she had cocaine somehow, some way in her system. I don't know where they got that information from. I don't know if it was from blood or urine, even though, like I said, she had urinated sitting up. We have pictures of that, right? It was confirmed with Julian saying, I noticed pee underneath her. That's why I moved her. So, where did they get this cocaine testing positive? And then later on down the line, fentanyl. Why can't fentanyl show up as fast as cocaine? And that this may have played a part in patient's cardiac arrest. It should be patient's death. Okay, people? Patient is being supported on full life support, and it is not known if she will survive this admission. Hogwash, people. It's all hogwash. Following discussion with family, you know what the coroner tried to tell me? Oh, it was because she was so young. They really did try to save her only because she was so young. She forgot to put the beautiful part in there. But when I let her know that ShaMay was embalmed, that coroner completely ignored what I said, people, on the phone. And played it off like I hadn't even said anything. And then when I asked her, and she goes, what do you mean by embalmed? I said, well, you're the medical coroner office, right? You know what embalmed means. You know what it means to embalm a body. And she just ignored it, people. That right there is negligent. If you've got somebody on the phone, a mother, saying, look, my daughter was embalmed in a hospital, you're the coroner, you should go off and investigate that. Don't you think that the coroner should have taken some responsibility and figured out what the fuck I was talking about? Nope. Instead, she played it off like it was nothing. Following discussion with family and Julian, social worker placed call to MCFD in light of patient's positive toxicology screen and baby Amari having been in the home at the time. Family and Julian appreciated social worker transparency about this report provided to centralized screening worker Jill Summerson. I found that little baggie that had little white remnants left in it in the middle of ShaMay's bed under the blanket where Julian was laying. And because the cops didn't do their fucking job, they didn't find it either. And because they took forever to come to my house to investigate what happened to ShaMay, I got all nervous and I ran off to the freaking safe injection site. I wanted to catch the bastard with his fentanyl and I asked them to test it. And apparently came back negative with fentanyl in it, although they couldn't tell me what it was because they don't test to see what type of drug it was. And then, because they phoned over to the police station, that's when the police said, okay, stop, come to us and bring what you have to us. So then I crossed over the street and I went to the police station and I sat there and I requested for them to open up an official fucking investigation. Here is the fucking evidence, what's left of it, and do something with it. Because my daughter was hot-capped, people. But you see, if the cops would have done their job, they would have found all that shit and it would have been documented correctly. Right? They might even have found where the freaking fentanyl was. They might have found ShaMay's shirt that had been changed. They might have found a whole lot of fucking things that they didn't find because they didn't bother. Because that's not was the agenda. It wasn't the agenda, people. It wasn't the agenda. Oh, she was so long, you let me save her life. That's bullshit. 3 people a day, every day. That just multiply that that's like fuck. Think about it. 3 people a day, every day, year after year, are dying in this province directly related to fentanyl. That's a lot of bodies to pick and choose from when it comes to organ harvesting, okay? And each and every one of those deaths are not being investigated as a murder when some of them definitely, most are. Patient, client, family perspective. Family expressed their shock and sadness at the positive toxicology screen. They share that patient's older sister struggles with drug abuse, and this had always seemed to serve as a sobering example to the rest of her siblings about the risks of drug use. Only because of fentanyl, people. The people are not dying from overdosing on cocaine. Very few. It's fentanyl, okay? And they know it. Family and Julian share that aside from cannabis, which Julian and patient apparently smoked together, per Julian purchased from a dispensary, patient does not use drugs to their awareness. Family do not seem to be aware that patient did disclose some previous cocaine use at the time of her son's birth. That's when she said, I had done cocaine prior to March of being pregnant. Okay? Anything after March, for those 7-month period, she did no cocaine. But they have to write it down here because they criminalize the victims. That's what they do. They set them up. Oh, the boogeyman, the big boogie cocaine man. Right? And we'll let the real killer just walk through the door. AKA fentanyl. See social worker note from September 8th, 2018. What the hell is that? Hold on a minute. Okay. Let's just get back to what we're doing. See social worker's note from September 8th, 2018. September 8th of 2018. See, social work. Okay, this was written, people, on April 11th of 2018. Okay? And here it says, see social worker note from September 8th of 2018. Misleading. There is no September 8th of 2018. We haven't even made it yet. Unless, of course, she's referring to 2017. Something in ShaMay's past history file, right? Julian also expresses his shock at patient's positive tox screen. Right, that's why he had his little baggie with white specks in it, in terms of an empty bag that had cocaine in it, in the middle of ShaMay's bed. And through all the hustle and bustle, he forgot about it. Or maybe he left it there intentionally. I don't know. She wasn't in the bed, though. He was. And he seems deeply saddened by patient's admission. He questioned if patient's arrest could have been caused by the marijuana they were smoking, purchased at dispensary. I'm like, come on. Patient's mother, Judy, and patient's sister, Tisha, share the family's significant history with and mistrust of social workers. Previous social worker involvement with MCFD, more like what they did to Uncle John, and other family members, child, and Fraser, FH social worker, I guess Fraser Health, social worker surrounding a relative, Uncle John, relative's admission, and AGL investigation. I don't know what AGL is, but I don't know. Lawsuit initiated by family. Like I said, you're targeted. They already knew that. Your file is already flagged. Right? What they did to ShaMay's body was a form of retaliation. Right? Family appreciate that while during the course of this admission, they may need to have difficult conversations with social worker, that social worker will always endeavor to be upfront as transparent with them whenever possible. Whenever possible. Within the confines of patient confidentiality. Okay? That's why they just had her on display for 9 days for anybody to walk in when they wanted to. Didn't matter what I had to say. Right? And when it finally did, it was too late. Consent, e.g., if patient should wake up, if consent, within the confines of patient's confidentiality, right? Consent, e.g., if patient should wake and indicate she does not want her family's involvement. Family appreciate being notified in advance of the need to notify MCFD in light of patient's current admission, and indicated that they expected as much. In fact, we appreciate it. Families seem to be concerned that in the event patient does not survive this admission, that the patient's son Amari might be a pawn. They are concerned that Amari might be taken from their care by MCFD or patient's father. I wasn't concerned about MCFD, people. That's this woman in here keeps porting MCFD. MCFD is like the big boogie MCFD, right? Don't breathe! Anyway, therapeutic intervention, provide ongoing supportive counseling to those on unit, patient's sister, Tisha, and her partner, father of baby, Julian, and his mother. So they were advocating for Julian's mother, and to Judy by phone. Began psychosocial assessment. confirm temporary decision maker. Temporary secondary decision maker. Facilitate telephone medical update for Judy. Ascertain whereabouts of baby Amari currently and placed TC to MCFD centralized screening after hours with a Jill. Clinical impressions and social work diagnoses. ShaMay's seems to have been under some added stressors lately, with the advent of school and concerns regarding her financial security. It seems that the family was unaware of her drug use beyond cannabis, and it remains unclear if ShaMay may have been using drugs habitually or if this was a one-off incident. There seems to be some tension from Judy towards Julian, with Judy being concerned that should ShaMay not survive this admission, that Julian may want baby Amari with him. She may be blaming him for patient's admission, as he was present in the home, though he was also the one who sought help for her. He didn't seek help for her, people. He walked down to Tisha's room, stood in front of Tisha's room, and said, ShaMay's not responding. Tisha said, what? Julian said, ShaMay's not responding. Then he stood back. He let Tisha run past him. Then he followed Tisha down the hall. Okay? Then he was going to go get some water. Tisha said, no, go get Mom. Then he came upstairs. He said, quick, come downstairs. Didn't tell me why. I went downstairs. He was watching what I was doing, and then he just stood back and watched. Okay, people? That's what he did, as Tisha was on the phone with 911. That needs to be corrected. Julian presents as caring and appropriate. Julian is well supported by his own mother. She was there quick, who was present on the unit providing him with support. Judy and Tisha are very open about their apprehension and mistrust of social worker based on past experiences, and they will benefit from ongoing social worker support and relationship building and upfront, transparent conversations. Okay, I hadn't met the woman yet. This was based on a so-called phone call. Okay? I didn't meet her till the next day, people. In person. Plan. Social work to provide ongoing supportive counseling to family in light of concerns, anorexic brain injury, possible poor prognosis. Social work to organize to follow up family meeting for medical update as more information becomes available. Social work to connect with Julian privately when possible to assess his coping, explore his perspective, offer support. Outcome. Family receives supportive counseling and a medical update. Accusing ShaMay of being a closet drug addict who basically deserved what she got because she should have known better was not supportive, people. There was nothing supportive about that. Going behind our back and allowing Julian and his friends or whoever he took in with him to go see ShaMay after I specifically stood there with my son after court and told, well, as soon as I came in at 9 o'clock that evening, before I said, ooh, gee, she looks embalmed, you know, after I said, ooh, gee, she looks embalmed, I asked those people at the desk there to not let Julian and anyone else connected to him into ShaMay's room unless given permission by me or Tisha. Nobody was allowed into ShaMay's room because by this point I wanted an investigation, okay? I came in asking the nurse to look for needle marks or anything suspicious, bruising, whatever, right? Because I really did feel like my daughter had been hot capped. But I was thrown off guard when she looked embalmed. But what could I say? I couldn't go on and talk about that because that wasn't the issue at the time. So temporary secondary decision maker was established and MCFD was notified. Okay? And that was on April 11th at 17:39 hours, whatever that may be. And then the next one goes on to April 12th by the same social worker. And I only met her on the 12th after court. Just let me deal with Amari here. Hold on. Okay, so I was going to read this one and then that will be it for this for now. Okay, same social worker next day. Purpose of social work involvement. To provide ongoing supportive counseling to family in response to plus disbelief, fear, and anger, and anticipatory grief. Just gotta drag it out, right? Drag it out. Kind of like stand back and just watch. Current situation. ShaMay's a 22-year-old female admitted to... Hold on a minute. Okay, let me finish this. It's going to be a little while yet. Anyway, so this is on the 12th, okay? This is, I guess, after meeting her. I haven't read it. I'm going to read it now. Okay, current situation. ShaMay Chorney is 22-year-old female admitted to SMH ICU following cardiac arrest secondary to cocaine and fentanyl overdose. This is the next day. So now they've said that she's overdosed on cocaine and fentanyl. Patient's mother, Judy, and brother, Mark Kane, attended bedside. That was after court, people. We showed up there at about 4:30. Okay? I left for court at 8:30 in the morning, and I wasn't done with it until got to the hospital by 4:30. Family is now aware of the complete toxicology results from this admission. But we knew before we even showed up because we found out at basically 8 o'clock in the morning. Patient, client, family perspective. ShaMay's Judy expressed her plus disbelief that ShaMay was using drugs, and she had many questions, which social worker and RN were unable to answer. So, I guess it was that day when I asked a lot of questions. On the first day, it was, that night when I showed up at 9, it was like, I don't want these people in, don't let them in, right? What are these poke marks? Why is she so swollen? Why is she so hard? What's all this leaky shit going on down her neck, right? You guys should be looking for poke marks. I think something bad has happened to her. You need to get the doctor involved and ask for an investigation. I want an investigation as to what happened to my daughter. I don't want anyone in her room, blah, blah, blah. And then we pretty much left, right? And then the next day, got up in the morning, went to go to court, and then that's when I received a phone call telling me that ShaMay had fentanyl in her system. So by the time I got to the hospital at 4:30 after court, it wasn't a surprise when she told me this because somebody had already phoned me and told me that. Right? Even though they didn't tell me that the day before. Questions related to events leading up to patient's admission, events in home. Well, I sure in the hell wouldn't be asking no RN nurse or social worker what the hell happened in the home. I was asking about how is it that, because they kept trying to say that the cocaine offset the fentanyl. And I'm like, well, you need to tell me how that works, because fentanyl is the stronger drug, right? Anyone out in the streets will tell you if they're doing their drug of choice and it's laced with fentanyl, and it's a good hit of fentanyl, it's going to knock them out and put them into OD. And that's why everybody is running around with Narcan kits these days, people. Okay? With 3 people dying every day in this province from fentanyl. And they want to label it a suicide or an accident because it brings in those bodies for harvesting. Judy maintains that ShaMay had turned her life around. First of all, people, I don't like how, and this needs to be corrected too, because ShaMay wasn't turning her life around, people. She had worked, okay, when she got out of school. She worked at McDonald's serving 1,000 people a day. I've said this, that were homeless, that had severe drug addiction every day for over a year and a half or however long she worked at McDonald's full time, supporting herself. She went back to school after she graduated with honors to get her math and a little bit of science or whatever it was that she needed to become an RN. She even put the application in. I have it, people, where the first application through CDI College for a student loan was $33,000, right? Because it was a private college, so it was going to be a little more expensive. And then the suggestion to go to Langaric popped up, but Uncle John got medically kidnapped, so, you know, it was all that drama and stress and just the whole, you know, so that kind of fell off to the wayside. So she worked several jobs, people. So it wasn't that she needed to turn her life around. What she was doing is that she was breaking away from Julian. That's where she was turning her life around, people. But here, the way they wrote it down, this person makes it sound like, you know, ShaMay was out of control with her life, when in fact she was not. She was working, people. She, you know, paying her bills, whatever. But she had somebody that was constantly trying to derail her, right, for whatever reason, outside of he couldn't do it for himself. Anyway, that was to turn her life around and is committed to going to school. ShaMay loves school, but that's been already pointed out. They didn't nurture her giftedness, right? They wanted her to be a what is it called? A tourist guide, like to make application to send people on airplanes, right? Versus being the nurse that she wanted to be. And students that come from places like India, which, by the way, is like drying up in terms of heat waves. I was just talking to somebody saying that one of the reasons all these immigrants are coming to Canada is because their countries are overheating. There's been places in India over the last while, within the last year, where it's been 55 degrees Celsius. It's been documented in 2019, right, you know, several months back, that it was like 51 degrees Celsius, which is 122 Fahrenheit, with the lakes and the rivers drying up. And this happens to be happening in Punjab, okay? And that's why we're getting a lot of Punjabis coming out here more and more and more, is because it's just too hot, right? It's not that they don't have money, it's that they can't live there in their own country, apparently, because it's too hot. But what the government has been doing is they've been bringing in a lot of students, you know, overseas students, and making them pay more for school out here than your regular student that's born out here. And that's why there's such a high number of immigrant students out here, because just by default, they pay more into the system, right? So, of course, the public school system isn't going to want to put ShaMay into nursing when they've got people from all over the place willing to pay twice as much for the same course, when they're not already coming in with their diplomas to be nurses. Judy is devastated that ShaMay's hopes and dreams may not be possible. She strongly does not feel that ShaMay was taking drugs. And no, I don't, people. She wasn't taking drugs. Okay. I think what happened is she got hit on the head. More than once. I think her food was being poisoned more than once. And she believes ShaMay may have been poisoned. It says it right there. Social worker encourages Judy to share her thoughts and concerns about this with the police, which she indicated she plans to do. Because they wouldn't do anything, people. They wouldn't involve the police. They said it wasn't their place to ask the police to get involved. But did you notice how quick they called MCFD? And what comes with MCFD? With their right hand, the cops, right? So it's bullshit. Total fucking bullshit. If they can do everything that they do with the cops, with MCFD, when MCFD is involved, okay, with parents and their kids, they could have called an investigation right then and there. That the doctor should have done that, people. Based on, before they just assumed that Julian was the common law husband, they should have spoke with me. They should have let it ride for the day. And then once it was determined that, yeah, there's some real suspicious shit going on here, it should have been the doctor who got the police involved. But you see, that's not the way it works out here, though, right? Social worker encouraged Judy to share her thoughts and concerns about this with the police, which she indicates she plans to do. She wonders if ShaMay was hit over the head. And RN Carey shared there does not appear to be any trauma, and CT did not show anything to suggest this. Although in my videos, people, where I go in with my camera and I change the exposure, I have documented that she had a bruise in this area, right up in here. They tried to hide it, but it's clear as day when you know what you're looking for. And I can bring it up through different exposures, as well as you can see it in the actual video itself in terms of a normal picture. That's a lie. Judy wants to have patient's hair tested for drug use. They said they couldn't do that, and it wasn't their place to do it. While she is aware that this will not likely shed any new information about patient's current admission, because I wanted to know if she had been poisoned throughout a period of months, people, okay? Because ShaMay was off and on sick for whatever reason, right after she met Julian. She wants to know and show that patient does not have a history of drug use. Following social worker's inquiry with overnight ICU physician Dr. Urman, I don't even know who that doctor is because I never met no doctor, people. Like I said, the only doctor I met was Dr. Gould. Social worker provided information to Judy that while this does not appear to be a test that the hospital can do, that perhaps the police could assist her in her request, or a private lab. Social worker had indicated that should Judy wish to proceed, that it would be helpful for her to find further information on what is required in order for her to possibly take a hair sample. Judy plans to seek more information and will keep social worker and care team updated. Oh, they got me busy now, eh? Judy wants to obtain patients' health care records. I was on it, people. Social worker acknowledged that this can be done and that some information records can be obtained more quickly and some may have to wait until ShaMay is no longer receiving care, discharged. Judy acknowledged this and knows that she will need to sign consent in order to request these records. Judy shared that she may not be able to be very Judy shared that she may not be able to be very present on the unit for the next few days as she is providing care to Amari and her other grandson. Judy wants to restrict visitors to only those who are accompanied by immediate family. She wants Julian's visits to be restricted. She plans to provide the care team with the list of immediate family. So, this is, here it clearly states what I wanted. But the next day, they clearly disregarded it and let Julian in with his friends, so that it became a great big uproar, right, where I was arguing with the other social worker, and then he was playing dumb with my son. But you see, that's the thing though, right? They want you mad. They keep you arguing so that when you're arguing, you're not paying attention to what's really going on around you. Or they accuse you of things, right? So that you're not paying attention to what's really going around you, like with what they were doing with Uncle John. Judy wants to obtain, read that. And then it's underlined here, okay? Family shared that the term family meeting, because that's what they tried to play with Uncle John, we're having a family meeting, is trigger for them, as they have had to attend many deeply unpleasant, unsatisfactory meetings at Surrey Memorial Hospital in past, all related to Uncle John, right? They preferred terminology such as get together to receive an update and ask the doctor your questions. Therapeutic intervention. Provide ++ supportive counseling and crisis intervention at bedside. Acknowledge Judy's devastation and disbelief. Provided information to Judy regarding process to request medical records. Liaison with Dr. Urman. I don't even know who that doctor is, people. This is the first time I've come across his name and all these things that I've been looking at. Judy request for her hair testing for drug history. So she was going to go talk to Dr. Yarman about getting ShaMay's hair tested. Requested Judy provide more information regarding possible hair sample. What would be a potential lab require? What would a potential lab require in a sample? You can't tell me that a hospital doesn't know these things, okay? Should family continue to pursue this, social worker to also inquire, with social worker practice lead to ethical implications for patients' privacy, especially should she should survive this admission. Clinical impression and social work diagnosis. Due to a level of family distress at this time, today's intervention focused solely on providing support to family and relationship building due to current crises and past history with social workers. Patient's mother is understandably experiencing an overwhelming range of emotions as she moves from a complete disbelief and denial. I was never in a complete disbelief or in denial, people. I had that dream. The dream prepared me, okay? I was prepared. I haven't even cried yet, people, and my daughter's been dead almost 2 years. When I do this stuff, I get all teary-eyed, but I fight it off, right? Because I don't got time to sit here and cry, right? I really don't. I tell myself, well, maybe if you just let yourself cry and just really give it a good whirl, right? You know, get it off your chest. That feeling will go away. But I don't think so. You know, I could cry a river and it's not going to change anything, right? So this is misinformation. I was not in disbelief, or nor was I in denial. I was like, she looks embalmed. There's something wrong here. She doesn't feel right. You know, it seems awfully odd that she should have all these poke marks. But since we're looking at these poke marks, I really want you to investigate how she ended up in this state by looking for needle marks in conspicuous places where maybe she got hot capped with a poke. Because you don't even have to inject the fentanyl into the vein, people. You just have to put the needle, poke it lightly into the skin if it's infected enough with fentanyl to kill somebody. Okay? And that's only one mode of to administer it. Okay? He could have put it in her food. He could have put it in her drink. He could have put it in her fucking cigarette, for all we know. Right? Anything. Right? He could have came up and went like that from behind, just with a pair of gloves on, with the fentanyl on it. Right? He could have fucking rubbed it in her eyes. He did something, though. And when you're thinking like that, and by that time I was thinking like that, people, okay, you're not in disbelief. You're on a mission to find out the truth, okay? There's a difference between, you know, I touched her once when I first came in, and that was the last time I touched her, people. What does that tell you? It's because she was dead. I knew it as soon as I seen her, the first time downstairs. It sunk in when I seen her at the hospital looking embalmed. And then you know the story from there, right? Should patient not survive this admission, it may be appropriate and important for social worker to advocate with Judy for father of baby Julian to have an opportunity to visit and say goodbye. Social worker opted not to discuss her ban of Julian at this time due to a level of family distress. Because they were completely ignoring what I was saying. I was asking them for an investigation. I told them she was injured by him, right? You need to look for how he did it. We already know that he did it with the fentanyl. We just needed to know how it got into her system. But of course, they couldn't answer that question because they kept blaming the cocaine and then tried to say the cocaine offset it. So in other words, she did the cocaine, but the fentanyl didn't kick in until a half an hour later, which is a bunch of fucking hogwash, okay? I have talked to seasoned drug addicts out here, people that fucking deal with fucking fentanyl in their drugs every damn day. And they're ODing with this shit, okay? And they're seasoned drug addicts that know what they're fucking doing. It's that simple. And the government plays dumb to it. It doesn't matter if it's meth. It doesn't matter if it's heroin. It doesn't matter if it's fucking cocaine. It doesn't matter if it's freaking ecstasy or whatever people are popping when it comes to pills. It's all laced with fentanyl to some degree. Because it's being done on purpose to bring in the bodies while the coroner is going around rubber stamping each and every death as a suicide and an accident because the public union sector is capitalizing off of these dead bodies. Plan. Social worker to follow up with Judy regard list of immediate family who will be supporting visits. Social worker to follow up with Judy regard her request for patient's health records from the administration, from this admission. So in other words, I wanted to look at her medical records as they were being made. right? I just didn't want to stand there and have them tell me, assuming that they were going to tell me anything, because they really didn't tell me very much. Right? I wanted the hard copies as it was unfolding. Social worker to facilitate get-together for the family to receive an update from the doctor and ask questions. I don't even know why the doctor didn't make himself present. I never met the doctor, people. Spoke to a doctor on the phone the first day, but after that, it was just the brain doctor on the 16th. And I don't even know his name yet. I haven't figured out his name yet. Outcome. Patient's mother and brother received ongoing supportive counseling. Acknowledgement of despair. All in all, that social worker, she was okay, right? You know, for what it's worth, nothing really stands out in my head outside of, you know, they couldn't come up with any clear answers in terms of a clinical, like, you know, well, how can you tell me that the cocaine offset the fentanyl when you go out in the streets and everybody will tell you that it will be the fentanyl that will kill you first before the fucking cocaine, okay? And it's like this fast. So, you know, somebody's lying, and considering that 3 people a day in British Columbia, Canada are dying every damn day, year after year, right? While these so-called professionals are going around sugarcoating it and trying to say, oh no, the cocaine offset it and just put death off for a half an hour. You know, it doesn't really matter if death occurred an hour ago or a half an hour ago. The point is that person shouldn't have been doing drugs. They should have known better, because everybody knows that fentanyl is in everything now, and you got what you deserved. Move on. It was an accident. You didn't mean to kill yourself. And if you did, then it was a suicide. C'est la vie. On to the next. And the cycle continues, people. And the cycle continues. Okay? That's the thing. The cycle continues. And because everybody is so stressed out, worn out, you know, some people are being retaliated against, right? You know, people are afraid to cross the boundaries, test the boundaries. They're afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to look. Whatever it is that they're fucking afraid to do, they're not really noticing what's happening to some of these people in regards to their organs being harvested before they even turn off these so-called fucking ventilating machines. Again, you cannot put oxygen into a dead body. If you do that, all it does is accelerate the decomposition stage. And the only way to stop a dead body from turning black and smelling is to put formaldehyde into it via through embalming.